So I remember to put on pants this time doing this makeup. So yeah, this one was a lot easier since we're not doing practically like a full encapsulation of his head. So pretty much just slapped on some Prozac onto the prosthetic. You wait for it a little bit to kind of dry, get a little tacky. Just slapped it on top of the dude's face. After that, go around the edges and fill in any spots that, have not been glued down. The parts that are hardest to glue down are definitely like around the mouth, like the lips, and around the eyes, especially, you obviously don't want to get any adhesive on the eyes. Plus, sometimes, with adhesive, the fumes could get to you, and you're like, why are my eyes tearing up? Anyway, so once everything's glued down, go in there with some freaking cowbell patch, and, you fill in any spots, you make sure your edges are looking good and all that stuff. And again, you get to the cobble patch around the eyes. Again, that's, where you have to let your model or your bestie tell them, like, look down, look up, no, open your eyes, look up, no, look up with your eyes, not your head, You have to do that so you don't get, obviously, any of the stuff in their eyelashes, in their eyes, and any parts you don't want them to. You want your model to be comfortable, even though they have this piece of foam stuck to their face. Once the cobble patch is all laid down, then we do the painting process. Now, with Paul with having darker skin, you go in with a kind of warm tone or whatever, their undertone. So Paul's usually more of like a reddish orange undertone, which is why, as you see, around the edges of where the cobble patch is, I have that going on. And I don't just put it just on the edges, I put it, kind of past it, but for, when you kind of first start blending, you kind of do that, and then you kind of expand out from there. But yeah, once the kind of undertone goes on, and then I put in his regular skin color. I don't know what that means, but you know what I mean. His skin tone, match his skin tone as well as possible, because the whole point is that that's his face. He looked like a pig, kind of thing. All right, we changed the camera angle now. We get to see him straight on. You can see me do that around the eyes. Again, around the eyes could be possibly a little daunting again with the fumes, because this is alcohol activated, makeup. So again, that might end up being a little annoying. Do you think he's asleep, or is it just his eyes closed? Put a little bit more texture around, dab a little extra paint around the edges to blend it in, and then we're done.